We start this hour of Newsfeed in Gauteng, where the Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, will be delivering his State of the Province address this evening from around 5 p.m. today. You'll see it right here on Newzroom Afrika, channel 405. You can imagine the issues facing the Premier of that province. There's rising unemployment, election, and an election next year. The ANC may well lose the province, and yet Lesufi, of course, will be trying hard to retain the province for the ANC. Dr Sam Koma is a governance expert. He joins us now. Dr Koma, good afternoon. Glad to see you. Thanks very much for coming through. How difficult is it to be the Premier of Gauteng at the moment?
Yeah, no, thanks. This is a momentous occasion for Premier Panyaza Lesufi. It is his inaugural State of Province address. Of course, he's got governance experience because he has served in various MEC portfolios, but this is a different position altogether. He has to be seen to be providing bold leadership and also taking the residents of Gauteng into confidence because they are grappling with a number of socio-economic conditions, issues around unemployment, the continuing challenge of electricity crisis facing a number of townships in the province, and also the issue of crime, which is also out of control, and he has to be seen to be providing clear-cut strategies and programs as part of responding effectively to all of these challenges.
In a way, he's got to sort of talk up the ANC's track record in office ahead of the elections next year. His predecessor, David Mukura, spoke and concentrated on the township economy. I think many people might say they don't see evidence that worked. They don't see evidence of a difference.
Yes, I think today's Sopa will also focus largely on township economy, following the passing of the Township Enterprise Economic Development Act in 2020. There have been a number of programs that have been initiated by the Provincial Economic Development Department, tailored to capacitate SMMEs to provide some seed capital or funding for them to set up their businesses. There have been a rollout of what they call township hubs in various townships in the province, but you are quite right. Ordinary people on the ground, especially entrepreneurs, they may be asking themselves, where is the trickle-down effect? When are we going to start benefiting directly from all of these pronouncements that are meant to ensure that they are able to set up their enterprises and also propel the growth of the province in economic terms?
We all know load shedding is the sort of big issue, and there's very little the Premier can really do about that, apart from do what the Western Cape is trying to do and procure power from independent power producers. I haven't heard many rumblings of Gauteng trying to do that. Joburg says it wants to. Ekurhuleni says it wants to. I haven't heard much about the province.
Yes, last week he convened an energy summit where he invited a number of stakeholders. Energy experts were there, and also provincial government leaders. I think they will take cue from what the national departments are doing at the moment, getting off the grid through, of course, ensuring that they get into the renewable energy program, largely which will be solar panels that are installed in many of the government infrastructure facilities and also buildings. You're quite right. There's little he can do to stem load shedding or even to address load shedding effectively. But he's likely to make some pronouncements to say we are encouraging our metros and also our local municipalities to start learning from what is happening in the Western Cape, especially the city of Cape Town, that has managed to set up a solar plant and also directly connecting residents to their electrical network, and also providing incentives to the residents to say, if you've got excess power, you are at liberty to sell this excess power to us, and we'll pay you directly as part of the disbursement that the city is intending to do.
So people in Gauteng can't blame the Premier for electricity. They can look around them and look at the infrastructure in all of the councils, all of the roads just about, even in the rich areas. You see potholes almost everywhere. You see problems with water too. All of that infrastructure, is he going to make big promises there, or is he going to avoid trying to set himself up to fail?
Yes, I think he's likely to announce, say, big plans that speaks to a bigger chunk of public investment, going into the construction of new roads, the repairs, the maintenance that also go with the road network that we have in the province. So he will focus on that because the Gauteng province at the moment, the state of the infrastructure facilities is dire, and also most of the public health care facilities are also quite dire, very disturbing if you look at the Tembisa hospital situation and also the Chris Hani Bara hospital as well and other facilities.
We're going to come back to hospitals and health in just a moment, but the issue around infrastructure, I mean, sure, you can't do a lot in 18 months. You could give people hope in 18 months, though. Do you think that the Gauteng provincial government is even capable of trying to do that, trying to make a difference to repair some of this infrastructure? Or does it maybe, like other provincial governments, lack the capacity to do it?
The advantage of the Gauteng government is that they've got capital, which they can channel into some of these projects. They also have the luxury of recruiting talent of engineers, either from the private sector and also other key sectors, as part of helping the provincial government through the public-private partnership kind of arrangement to help the province to roll out some of these infrastructure programs. So they have to leverage on that because that's the comparative advantage they have compared to other provinces.
You spoke about health, and I mean health and education are the two things that the provincial government runs. And I say that they have power over that, but they also don't really, because I think it's up to 70% of their budgets for health and education go on salaries. So those are preset teachers, nurses, doctors. You can't move that. But Gauteng Health has been, frankly, one of the biggest national scandals for as long as I can remember. Let's call it 15 years. We could probably call it 20 years if we wanted. And I still don't understand why, despite all of the money and all of the administrations and all of this and all of that that we've had, we still have such poor outcomes from the Gauteng Health Department.
In short, it's incompetence. That is bedeviling the health department, despite the huge budget that they get from the provincial government and plus the conditional grants they get from the National Health Department. But you are right, we've seen also during COVID the whole scandal around PPE, which faced the health department, and also we know of other previous scandals that have engulfed the health department. But I think they need to start focusing more on the issue around getting the right people with the right skills, the commitment, the attitude in terms of turning around the health situation in the province. Because the money is there, but they just have to get the right expertise and also to have commitment on the part of the personnel to drive the renewal and reform agenda in the health department.
It took a long time for the head of the Tembisa hospital to be placed on a precautionary suspension, Dr. Ashley Mthunzi, despite report after report by News 24 with email evidence about the links to the death of Babita Diekaran and all of the tenders. Is it possible for Panyaza Lesufi to convince voters in the short time that he has that he's serious about corruption when it took so long to act just on... I mean, if we just look at that one incident... Yes, yeah. I mean, Bandile Masuka is a different story. But if we just look at that one incident, I mean, surely the DA and the EFF are going to make hay out of that.
Exactly. I think on his part, he has to show political commitment in any of the major pronouncements, initiatives that he's going to express today through Sopa. And also, he does not have much time in terms of delivering on these promises and also commitments. So he's cut off for work in terms of delivering these projects in a more tangible and also effective way so that it makes a difference to the ordinary residents of the province.
There are other quite complicated questions about local government in Gauteng at the moment. We've seen what seems to be the ANC and the EFF getting closer together. Julius Malema was very explicit about 2-3 weeks ago now when he said that, you know, in Joburg and Ekurhuleni they would work together, but under the mayoralty of a smaller minority party. Is he going to recognize that in any way? Do you think the EFF could even disrupt the speech tonight, as they've done in the National Parliament? Yeah. Or do you think maybe they will be looking at some sort of coalition in Gauteng in 2 years' time?
Yeah, exactly. There is rapport between Panyaza Lesufi and the EFF leadership. They have some history. I don't see them disrupting Sopa today. They seem to have struck some deals in terms of the running of some of the metros. They were able to dislodge the DA-run metro in the city of Joburg through a coalition of the other small parties. And I think all the opposition parties are smelling blood come 2024. The ANC is in a political precarious situation because they're sitting at 53% of the electoral outcome of 2019. Their intention is to take the ANC below 50% so that they're able to get into a coalition arrangement. And that is the reason there is a lot of positioning taking place in all the metros, bearing in mind that the ANC governs 5 of the 11 municipalities we have in Gauteng. None of the metros are in the hands of the ANC, so it's going to be a difficult election for the ANC come 2024.
The maths, the political calculus within the ANC I find fascinating because you've got Panyaza Lesufi and the Gauteng ANC seem to be getting closer to the EFF. The EFF is having a day of national action, a national shutdown, with the specific aim of removing the leader of the ANC as president, Cyril Ramaphosa as president. Of course, Cyril Ramaphosa once removed Julius Malema from the ANC. So it's personal. If you've got the Gauteng ANC making overtures towards the EFF and Gauteng, how do you think the leader of the ANC sees that?
Yes, he may have issues with that, but I think the Gauteng provincial leadership is saying our province is peculiar, our dynamics are very different, but we are in a precarious political situation. We need to start preparing the ground for 2024 in the likely event we dip below 50%. Who's likely to come on board? Will it be Al-Jama, EFF, or PA, at least, in terms of striking a deal with them? So I think they're just preparing the ground, but the initial leadership will have to understand that particular element to say Gauteng province is totally different, it's very dynamic, the variables are also different, and they have to allow and give space to the provincial leadership to be able to handle the coalition arrangements with the respective political parties in the province.
Panyaza Lesufi became the Premier after a provincial ANC conference last year. David Mukura departed. He had served 2 terms as Premier. One wonders if maybe he's about to go into national government, but that's a different conversation. How strong do you think the support Panyaza Lesufi has is? Do you think that he has strong support in the Gauteng ANC? 1 or 2 indications that maybe there's a bit of division. Maybe some people have felt they need to get a chance to be Premier before they lose power, before they have to govern in a coalition. It can be quite difficult to assess what's really going on behind the scenes, especially when so many of their conferences, their regional conferences in Gauteng have been chaotic.
Yeah, you remember, Panyaza Lesufi has popular support on the ground. This was witnessed in 2019 when there was a reshuffle. You remember former Premier David Mukura removed him from the education portfolio to another portfolio. There was an outcry, uproar, and he had to reverse the decision. So within the structures of the ANC, he also seems to have some popularity, but we know that in the current PEC, the dominant faction is not his faction at all. It's the Adiwele faction, as it is adapt in certain circles, but I think he has managed to pull through all the factions in terms of shaping a new direction for the ANC in the Gauteng province.
One of the things that perhaps you could argue he's done very well is stay in Gauteng. He's been in Gauteng. He was education spokesperson about 20 years ago. He went to national government very briefly, came back. He first challenged for the position of leader in Gauteng and ANC, I think, around 2011, a long time ago now.
Yes, this is his province. He has established his political base here. He's well-rooted in the townships, and also he's able to, go into the other political parties in terms of striking a deal, and also he seems to be resonating with a number of political parties in the province, and that's the reason they were able to get the city of Joburg in terms of striking a deal with the other small parties and settling for the MMC's positions within the city of Joburg.
Are you going to make any predictions for next year's election in Gauteng?
Gauteng is up for grabs. As I said earlier, the ANC is facing a serious, precarious political position. They may be able to maintain their majority by a slight margin, but I think all the opposition parties, especially Action SA, that seems to have done some inroads in most of the metros, is likely to cause an upset to the DA and also the ANC.
Dr Sam Koma, really appreciate you coming in. Thank you. Governance expert with us here on Newsfeed. Well, that speech due to start 5 o'clock tonight. The Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi will be on your television.